The massive ships appeared without warning above Earth's moon, were black and silver, each one larger than any city on the planet below. The Zephrian collective had arrived, and they expected this to be like all the others. 47. Worlds had fallen to them before, so it'd be 40-8. Commander Zephrian stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, his 6 arms folded behind his back. His species had evolved on a gentle world where the worst dangers were mild storms and the occasional earthquake. The Zephrians had built their empire through superior technology and careful planning. They studied each world before they conquered it, learning about the local species and their weaknesses. "Begin the scans," Zephrian ordered in his native tongue. The bridge crew moved to their stations, their movements smooth and practiced. They had done this many times before. The first scans of Earth made the bridge crew gasp. The planet was a nightmare of hostile environments. Vast oceans filled with creatures that could swallow their ships whole. Deserts where the temperature could kill in minutes. Frozen wastelands where nothing should be able to survive. Mountain ranges that reached impossible heights. Weather systems that moved with devastating power. "Commander," his science officer reported, "this planet is classified as a death world. The dominant species must be incredibly weak to survive in such conditions." Zephrian nodded. This made sense. On worlds where the environment was so hostile, the intelligent species usually evolved to be small and cautious. It would surrender quickly when faced with superior technology. Meanwhile, on Earth, alarms were ringing in military bases around the world. The appearance of alien ships was exactly what governments had been preparing for since the first radio signals were sent into space. Deep beneath Colorado Springs, Commander Jake Morrison was already moving toward the command center. Jake was a big man with scars on his hands from his years as a Marine. He had fought in 3 wars and survived situations that would have killed most people, not 45. He was in charge of Earth's first contact defense team. It was a job he had hoped he would never need to do. "Sir, we have confirmation of alien vessels," reported Captain Pete Rodriguez as Jake entered the command center. Pete was younger than Jake, but he had already proven himself in combat zones across the globe. His specialty was tactical planning, and he had been preparing for this moment for 5 years. "How many ships?" Jake asked, taking his seat at the main console. 17 large vessels, sir. They're holding position near the moon." Dr. Lisa Chang looked up from her station. She was the team's expert on alien biology and communication. Her job was to figure out what the aliens wanted and how to talk to them. She had spent years studying every piece of evidence about possible alien life. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," she reported. "It's in multiple languages. They're trying to communicate." Admiral Kate Sullivan entered the room. She was the military liaison between the defense team and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Her presence meant that the situation was being taken seriously at the highest levels of government. "What do they want?" Admiral Sullivan asked. Dr. Chang worked at her console, running the alien message through translation software. "They're demanding that we surrender immediately. They're calling themselves the Zephrian Collective, they say. They've conquered 47 other worlds. Above them, the Zephrian ships began launching small probes toward Earth. These probes were designed to study the planet's defenses and gather information about human technology. What they found confused them greatly. The probes detected massive structures designed to withstand nuclear attacks. Underground cities that could house millions of people. Weapon systems that seemed designed to fight an enemy with superior technology. Most puzzling of all, they found evidence of humans deliberately placing themselves in dangerous situations. "Commander," the Zephrian science officer reported, "the humans appear to engage in activities that would kill most sentient species. They deliberately expose themselves to dangerous animals, extreme weather, and life-threatening situations." Zephrian studied the probe data with growing confusion. Humans seemed to seek out danger. They jumped from aircraft for recreation. They climbed mountains without safety equipment. They swam in waters filled with predators that could kill them easily. "Perhaps it's some form of punishment," suggested another officer. "Maybe their society forces the weak to perform these dangerous tasks." But further observations showed that humans of all types engaged in these activities Rich and poor, young and old, military and civilian. They seemed to enjoy putting themselves in situations that would terrify most alien species. Back in the command center, Jake was coordinating with military leaders around the world. Every nation had agreed to work together in the face of an alien threat. It was the first time in human history that all countries had united for a common cause. "Sir, we're getting reports from around the globe," Pete reported.
"All military
"Forces are moving to defensive positions. Civilian population is being evacuated to underground shelters." "What about our response to their surrender demand?" Admiral Sullivan asked. Jake looked at the message on his screen. The aliens were giving humans 24 hours to surrender completely. They wanted all military forces to lay down their weapons and all governments to submit to alien rule. "Send them our response," Jake said. Dr. Chang composed the message carefully. She wanted to make sure the aliens understood exactly what humans thought of their demand. The message was simple and direct. It used words that would translate clearly. "Into any language, we refuse your demands. If you want our world, you will have to take it by force. We will not surrender. We will not submit. Come and try." When the message reached the Zephrian fleet, it caused an immediate stir on the bridge. Officers looked at each other in surprise. No species had ever refused their surrender demand before. "Commander," the communication officer said, "I believe there may be an error in translation. The humans seem to be challenging us to attack them." Zixai read the message several times. The meaning was clear. The humans were not only refusing to surrender, they were inviting an attack. It was unprecedented in Zephrian history. "Perhaps they don't understand our capabilities," suggested the science officer. "We should demonstrate our power." The Zephrians selected a small, uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean. They fired a single beam from their main weapon, completely destroying the island in a flash of light. The demonstration was meant to show humans what would happen to their cities if they continued to resist. The response from Earth was not what they expected. Instead of panic and surrender, human military forces around the world began moving with increased speed and coordination. Satellite images showed armies preparing for battle, not retreat, in the command center. Jake watched the destruction of the island on his monitors. The alien weapon was more powerful than anything humans possessed. But it was not beyond their ability to defend against. "They're trying to scare us," he said to his team. "They want us to panic and give up." "It's not working," Pete replied with a grim smile. "If anything, it's making people angry." Dr. Chang was analyzing the weapon signature from the alien attack. "Sir, I think I understand their strategy. They're used to fighting species that surrender when faced with superior technology. They're not prepared for opponents who fight back." Admiral Sullivan was receiving reports from military commanders around the world. "All forces report ready for combat operations. We're as prepared as we can be." Jake looked at the alien ships on his screen. They were massive and powerful, but they were also predictable. It followed the same pattern for 47 worlds. That meant humans knew what to expect. "I think we're like all the others," Jake said. "They think we'll break when they show us how powerful they are. I have no idea what they're dealing with." The Zephrian High Command was reviewing the situation with growing concern. The humans were not responding according to their predictions. Instead of cowering in fear, they were preparing for war. "Begin the standard pacification protocol," Zexai ordered. "Deploy the intimidation broadcasts and prepare for ground assault." The protocol had worked perfectly on every world they had conquered. Within hours, the local population would be begging for mercy. The Zephrians had no reason to believe Earth would be different. They were about to learn that humans were unlike any species they had ever encountered. Earth had spent millions of years trying to kill every living thing on its surface. The species that survived that test were not the kind to surrender easily. The stage was set for a conflict that would change the galaxy forever. On one side stood the Zephrian Collective, masters of 47 worlds and possessors of technology beyond human understanding. On the other side stood humanity, the products of the most hostile world in known space. Neither side truly understood what they were about to face. The Zephrians expected another easy conquest. The humans expected to die fighting. Both sides were wrong. The real war was about to begin. The Zephrian psychological warfare began at dawn. Massive screens appeared in the sky above every major city on Earth, projected by the alien ships. The images showed world after world being conquered by the collective. Burning cities, fleeing populations, and final surrenders. The message was clear. Resistance was pointless. Commander Zexai watched from his bridge as the broadcasts played across Earth's surface. This was the standard procedure. Show the primitive species what happened to those who resisted. Hours their leaders would be begging for mercy. But the reports coming back from the probe networks were confusing. Instead of panic, human military forces were moving with greater speed and coordination. Instead of fleeing, civilians were moving in organized groups toward underground shelters. Instead of chaos, there was discipline. "Commander," reported the communications officer, "we're intercepting human military transmissions. They appear to be coordinating a defense." Zexai studied the data. The humans were behaving like a species that had been preparing for this moment for decades. Their movements were too organized, too practiced. It was as if they had known the Zephrians were coming. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Brooks was leading a briefing for the world's most elite special forces units. The conference room was filled with soldiers from every nation on Earth. They had been training together for years, preparing for exactly this situation. "The alien probes are giving us good intelligence," Ryan said, pointing to images on the large screen. "Their technology is advanced, but it's designed for intimidation rather than actual combat." Ryan was a veteran of more conflicts than he cared to count. He had survived situations that would have killed most people, and he had learned to read his enemies quickly. The aliens were powerful, but they were also predictable. "Sir," asked a British SAS officer, "what about their energy weapons?" "Powerful, but inefficient," Ryan replied. "They're designed to destroy large targets, not to fight mobile opponents. We can use that against them." At Area 51, Dr. Amy Foster was working around the clock with her team of weapons specialists. They had been analyzing the alien technology from the crashed probes, and what they found was both encouraging and disturbing. "The good news," Amy told her team, "is that their technology is compatible with ours. We can adapt their energy sources to our weapons systems." Amy was a small woman with a brilliant mind for destruction. She had designed some of the most effective weapons in the human arsenal, and now she was working on something entirely new. "The bad news," she continued, "is that their shields are incredibly strong. We'll need to find a way around them." The team had been working for 18 hours straight, combining alien technology with human weapons in ways that violated every known law of physics. But they were making progress. Meanwhile, in the Pacific Ocean, Commander Beth Taylor was coordinating. With submarine commanders around the world, she had realized something that the aliens had missed completely. They were focusing on land-based defenses and orbital positions. They had ignored the oceans. "The aliens come from a world with small, calm seas," she explained to her officers. "They have no understanding of deep ocean warfare." Beth had spent her career in naval intelligence, and she knew that the sea was humanity's greatest advantage. The alien sensors couldn't penetrate the ocean depths effectively. Their ships were not designed for underwater combat. The first alien landing craft began their descent toward Earth's surface. Commander Zexai had selected what appeared to be strategic targets, military bases, government centers, and major cities. The landing craft were heavily armed and shielded. It's designed to establish secure beachheads for the main invasion force. The first craft touched down outside Washington, D.C., expecting to find desperate human defenders. Instead, they found empty streets and abandoned buildings. The entire city had been evacuated in less than 12 hours. "Where are the humans?" asked the landing force commander as his troops moved through the empty streets. The answer came in the form of explosions. Sergeant First Class Tony Martinez had spent 3 days placing charges throughout the city. When the alien troops reached the government district, he triggered them all at once. Tony was an expert in demolitions, and he had turned the entire downtown area into a trap. Buildings collapsed in carefully planned sequences, creating a maze of rubble and fire. The alien landing craft found themselves trapped in a burning labyrinth. They expected us to fight them in the open, Tony radioed to his commander. They didn't expect us to bring the city down on top of them. Similar scenes played out around the world. In London, alien forces found themselves trapped in the underground tunnel system, which had been flooded with burning fuel. In Tokyo, they discovered that the humans had turned the subway system into a network of kill zones. The aliens. Superior technology meant nothing when buildings fell on them. Their energy shields couldn't protect them from thousands of tons of concrete and steel. Their advanced weapons were useless in the close confines of collapsed structures. Commander Zexai watched the reports with growing alarm. His landing forces were taking heavy casualties, and they hadn't even engaged the human military yet. The humans were fighting like no species he had ever encountered. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the humans appear to be using their own cities as weapons."
Yes.
Was beyond the Zephrian understanding of warfare. Civilized species protected their cities and infrastructure. They didn't deliberately destroy them to gain tactical advantage. But the worst was yet to come. Dr. Foster's team had completed their first prototype weapons. They were crude combinations of human engineering and alien technology, but they worked. The first human counterattack began when fighter jets equipped with alien energy. Weapons struck the orbital fleet. The alien ships were not prepared for attack from below. Their shields were designed to deflect attacks from other spacecraft, not from atmospheric fighters. Human pilots, accustomed to G-forces that would kill most alien species, dove through the alien formations with devastating effect. "Impossible," whispered the Zephrian fleet commander as he watched human aircraft maneuver in ways that should have torn them apart. How can they survive those acceleration forces? The answer was simple. Humans had evolved on a world where survival required adapting to extreme conditions. What seemed impossible to the aliens was normal for humans. In the depths of the ocean, Commander Taylor's submarine forces struck the alien fleet from below. The Zephrians had never encountered underwater warfare, and their ships had no defenses against torpedo attacks from the ocean depths. The USS Nevada, nuclear submarine, fired a full spread of torpedoes at the alien command ship. The weapons had been modified with alien technology, making them far more powerful than anything the Zephrians had expected. "Direct hit on the command vessel," reported the submarine's sonar operator. "She's taking on water and losing altitude." The alien ship, designed for space combat, was not equipped to handle being attacked from beneath the ocean's surface. Its shields were useless against physical projectiles coming from an unexpected direction. Back on the surface, Ryan Brooks was leading a team of Special Forces soldiers through the wreckage of downtown Washington. They had captured several alien soldiers and were studying their equipment and tactics. "They're not soldiers," Ryan reported to his commanders. "They're more like police. They're trained to intimidate and control, not to fight a real war." The captured aliens were terrified. They had never faced opponents who fought back with such ferocity. Their equipment was designed for controlling frightened civilians, not for combat against trained military forces. "Sir," asked one of Ryan's sergeants, "what do we do with the prisoners?" "Treat them according to the Geneva Convention," Ryan replied. "But keep studying their equipment. We're learning more about their technology every hour." The aliens' psychological warfare was backfiring spectacularly. The images of burning cities and fleeing populations were having the opposite effect from what the Zephrians intended. Instead of terrifying humans, they were making them angry. "They're not breaking," reported the Zephrian psychological warfare specialist. "If anything, they're becoming more determined to resist." Commander Zexai was beginning to understand that this was not going to be like the previous 47 conquests. The humans were not surrendering. They were not fleeing. They were fighting back with a level of ferocity that the Zephrians had never encountered. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving a message from the human military." The message was simple and direct. "You wanted a fight. Now you have one." Dr. Foster's team had completed their analysis of the alien technology. They had discovered something that would change the course of the war. The aliens' advanced weapons were powered by a central energy source that could be disrupted. "We can turn their own technology against them," she announced to her team. "If we can modify our EMP weapons with their energy signatures, we can disable their entire fleet." The plan was dangerous and untested, but it was also their best chance. The humans began preparing for a counterattack that would catch the aliens completely off guard. Meanwhile, the Zephrian High Command was receiving reports from their fleet that made no sense. The Zephrian fleet deployed their planet-killer weapons at dawn. These massive orbital cannons had destroyed the atmospheres of 12 worlds before Earth. They were designed to break the will of any species through overwhelming destruction. Commander Zexai stood on his bridge watching as the weapons charged. "Target their major population centers," he ordered. "Show them what happens when they resist a collective." The first beam struck New York City with the force of 100 nuclear weapons. The beam cut through the atmosphere like a sword of pure energy, creating a pillar of light that could be seen from space. When the light faded, Manhattan was gone. But something was wrong. The Zephrians had expected to see millions of fleeing humans, panic in the streets, and immediate surrender. Instead, their sensors showed organized movement underground. The humans had vanished into tunnel systems that stretched for hundreds of miles beneath the city. "Sir," reported the science officer, "the humans appear to have extensive underground facilities. Most of their population was already relocated before our attack." General Carl Mitchell watched the destruction of New York from his command center 3 miles underground. The loss of the city hurt, but it was not unexpected. Human governments had been preparing for this exact scenario for decades. "Phase 1 is complete," Carl announced to his staff. "The aliens have revealed their primary weapon system. Begin Phase 2. Carl was a man who had spent his entire career preparing for the impossible. I had studied every form of warfare known to humanity, and he had developed strategies that no alien species would expect. The destruction of New York was not a defeat. It was the beginning of humanity's real counterattack. Dr. Rachel Grin was working in a laboratory deep beneath the Nevada desert. She was a specialist in biological warfare, and she had been developing weapons specifically designed to target alien physiology. The captured alien soldiers had provided her with everything she needed to know about Zephrian biology. "Their respiratory systems are incredibly sensitive," she explained to her team. "They evolved on a world with perfect atmospheric conditions. They can't handle any kind of contamination." Rachel had created a biological agent that was completely harmless to Earth life, but devastating to the aliens. It attacked their breathing apparatus, causing their own immune systems to shut down. The agent could be dispersed through the atmosphere, carried by the wind to every alien on the planet. "Sir," her assistant asked, "what about their environmental suits?" "Their suits are designed to protect them from Earth's atmosphere," Rachel replied with a cold smile. "They're not designed to protect them from Earth's atmosphere when it's been weaponized." Meanwhile, Commander Steve Johnson was coordinating the largest submarine assault in human history. Every submarine on Earth has been modified with alien technology and armed with weapons that the Zephrians had never encountered. "The aliens don't understand deep ocean warfare," Steve explained to his captains. "Their ships are designed for space combat. They have no idea how to fight an enemy that attacks from beneath the waves." Steve had spent his career in underwater warfare, and he knew that the ocean was humanity's greatest advantage. The alien ships could not effectively scan the ocean depths, and their weapons were not designed for underwater targets. The counterattack began at exactly noon, Greenwich Mean Time. Every human military unit on Earth moved simultaneously, coordinated by communication systems that the aliens could not intercept or jam. Major Kelly White led the aerospace assault from a command center in the Swiss Alps. Her pilots were flying aircraft that combined human engineering with alien technology in ways that violated every known law of physics. Remember, she told her pilots, "You're not just fighting for Earth. You're fighting for every species that these aliens have conquered. Show them what happens when they pick a fight with Deathworlders." The human aircraft dove through the alien formations with a ferocity that shocked the Zephrians. The pilots pulled G-forces that would have killed most alien species. They fought with a level of aggression that the aliens had never encountered. "Possible," whispered the Zephrian fleet commander as he watched a human fighter pilot deliberately ram his damaged aircraft into an alien cruiser. They're sacrificing themselves for tactical advantage. But the real shock came when the aliens realized that the human pilot had ejected at the last second, and his aircraft was loaded with explosives. The cruiser exploded in a ball of fire that took out 2 other alien ships. The submarine assault hit the alien fleet from below. Just as the aerospace attack struck from above, torpedoes modified with alien technology punched through shields that were designed to stop energy weapons. The alien ships, caught between attacks from above and below, began to fall from the sky like burning stars. Commander Johnson watched from his flagship as the alien command ship took a direct hit from a nuclear torpedo. The explosion created a mushroom cloud that could be seen from orbit, and the alien ship broke apart as it fell into the Pacific Ocean. "Target destroyed," reported his weapons officer. "The alien command structure is in chaos." But the most devastating attack came from an unexpected source. Dr. Green's biological weapon was released into the atmosphere by aircraft that the aliens never saw coming. Crop dusters and small civilian aircraft, flying too low for the alien sensors to detect, spread the agent across the entire planet. The effect on the alien ground forces was immediate and devastating. Their environmental suits, designed to protect them from Earth's natural atmosphere, could not filter out the weaponized agent. Within hours, every alien soldier on the planet was dead. "Sir," reported the Zephrian medical officer, "we've lost all ground forces. The humans have deployed some kind of biological weapon." Commander Zexai stared at the reports in horror. In less than 6 hours, the humans had destroyed half his fleet and eliminated every ground force on the planet. It was the worst military disaster in Zephrian history, but the humans were not finished. General Mitchell activated the final phase of the counterattack. Hidden weapon systems that had been built into the Earth's landscape began to emerge from underground bunkers. Missile silos opened in mountains that the aliens had thought were natural formations. Weapon platforms rose from the ocean floor, armed with energy cannons that had been reverse-engineered from alien technology. The entire planet revealed itself to be one massive weapons system. "They turned their whole world into a fortress," whispered the Zephrian tactical officer. "Every mountain, every forest, every city is a weapon." The human weapons were not as advanced as the alien technology, but they were used with a creativity and ferocity that the Zephrians could not match. Humans used their own planet's hostile environment as a weapon, triggering avalanches and landslides to crush alien positions. Major White coordinated with geological teams to create artificial earthquakes beneath alien landing sites. The aliens watched in horror as the ground itself turned against them, swallowing their forces in chasms that opened without warning. "They're using seismic charges," reported the Zephrian science officer. "They're weaponizing their planet's geological activity." Dr. Green's team had developed other biological weapons specifically designed for the alien ships. Microorganisms that could eat through alien hull materials were released into the atmosphere. The alien ships began to literally dissolve as Earth's weaponized biology attacked their structural integrity. Commander Johnson led a coordinated assault on the alien orbital stations. Human submarines surfaced near the alien crash sites, their crews boarding the alien vessels to capture technology and prisoners. The aliens found themselves fighting humans in zero-gravity environments, where the Deathworlders' superior physical conditioning gave them an overwhelming advantage. "They're boarding our ships," reported the Zephrian fleet commander. "They're fighting in vacuum without life support." The human boarding parties were wearing minimal environmental protection, treating the vacuum of space as just another hostile environment to be conquered. They moved through the alien ships with the same casual confidence that they showed when swimming with sharks or climbing mountains without safety equipment. The battle reached its climax when the humans deployed their most devastating weapon. Dr. Foster's team had reverse-engineered the alien energy technology and built a weapon that could disrupt the aliens' central power systems. "Fire the EMP burst," ordered General Mitchell. The electromagnetic pulse, enhanced with alien technology, swept through the Zephrian fleet like a wave of death. Every alien ship lost power simultaneously, their advanced systems shutting down as their own technology was turned against them. The alien ships began falling from the sky, their crews trapped in vessels that had become metal coffins. The humans watched from their underground shelters as the invasion fleet crashed into the oceans. And Mountains of Earth, Commander Zexai found himself trapped on a powerless ship, watching his entire fleet die around him. The humans had not just defeated the Zephrian collective, they had destroyed it utterly. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a message from the human military." The message was simple: "Surrender now, or we will board your ship and take you prisoner." For the first time in his life, Commander Zexai was faced with a choice between surrender and death. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace like a pack of wolves entering a peaceful meadow. 18 ships built from salvaged alien technology and human engineering appeared above the Zephrian homeworld of Kethur. The ships were ugly and brutal, covered in armor plating and bristling with weapons that no civilized species would consider necessary. Admiral Cheese. Don Parker stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, looking down at the garden world below. After spending his entire life on Earth, where every day was a struggle for survival, Kethur looked impossibly peaceful. The planet had perfect weather, gentle seas, and no dangerous wildlife. It was exactly the kind of world that would produce a species unprepared for real war. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're being hailed by the Planetary Defense Force." Don was a veteran of 3 wars and had commanded ships in the most dangerous waters on Earth. He understood that peaceful worlds created weak defenders. The Zephrians had conquered 47 worlds, but they had done it through intimidation and superior technology, not through actual fighting. "Put them through," Dan ordered. The alien face that appeared on the screen was pale and trembling. "Unknown vessels, you are in violation of collective space. Identify yourselves immediately." "This is Admiral Parker of the Terran Federation," Dan replied calmly. "We're here to discuss your surrender." The alien defense commander stared at him in confusion. "Surrender? We don't understand. You're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Don smiled grimly. "Numbers don't matter when you're fighting the wrong kind of war." Dr. Michelle Roberts was working in the fleet's intelligence center, analyzing data captured from the Zephrian computers. What she found confirmed everything humans had suspected about the galactic community. The aliens had never fought a real war, sir, she reported to Admiral Parker. Their entire military doctrine is based on intimidation. They've never faced an enemy that fought back effectively. Michelle had spent years studying alien cultures, and she realized that the Zephrians represented something much larger than a single aggressive species. They were part of a galactic community where real warfare had been forgotten. Their subject races surrendered because they had no choice, she continued. None of them came from worlds dangerous enough to create real soldiers. Captain Greg Adams was preparing his marine assault teams for the attack on the Zephrian orbital stations. His soldiers were equipped with captured alien technology, but they fought like humans. They expected to die, and they were prepared to take as many enemies with them as possible. "Remember," Greg told his troops, "these aliens have never faced soldiers from a death world. They don't know how to fight an enemy that won't surrender." Greg had led Marines in combat zones across Earth, from the frozen Arctic to the burning deserts of Africa. His men were used to fighting in environments that would kill most alien species. To them, the vacuum of space was just another hostile environment to be conquered. The battle began when the human fleet opened fire on the Zephrian orbital defenses. The alien weapons were powerful but slow, designed for destroying large targets. At long range, human ships moved like fighters, diving and weaving through the alien formations with tactics that no civilized species would attempt. "Impossible," whispered the Zephrian fleet commander, as he watched a human cruiser deliberately ram one of his battleships. "They're destroying their own vessels for tactical advantage." But the human ship had ejected its crew in escape pods just before impact, and the collision created a gap in the alien formation that allowed the rest of the human fleet to attack the orbital stations directly. Commander Sarah Davis led the reconnaissance teams that were mapping the Zephrian defense networks. She found was both encouraging and disturbing. The aliens had powerful weapons and strong shields, but they had no idea how to use them effectively against mobile opponents. "Sir," she reported to Admiral Parker, Their defense systems are designed to stop other civilized species. Are completely unprepared for our tactics. Sarah had spent her career in military intelligence, and she understood that the Zephrians represented a fundamental weakness in the galactic community. They had grown soft and predictable, relying on technology instead of skill. The human Marines began boarding the alien orbital stations with tactics that terrified the defenders. They moved through zero-gravity environments wearing minimal protection, treating the vacuum of space as naturally as they would treat a swimming pool. They're fighting without life support, reported one Zephrian defender. How can they survive in vacuum? The answer was simple. Humans had evolved on a world where survival required adapting to extreme conditions. They could hold their breath longer, tolerate greater pressure changes, function in environments that would kill most alien species. Captain Adams led his Marines through the main orbital station, moving with the casual confidence of predators. In their natural environment, the alien defenders were armed with advanced energy weapons, but they had never faced opponents who fought with such ferocity. Surrender, Adams called out to a group of trapped alien soldiers. We'll treat you according to the laws of war. The concept was foreign to the Zephrians. They had never encountered a species that followed rules of warfare. In their experience, conquest meant total domination or total destruction. Dr. Roberts was analyzing the captured alien databases, and what she found changed everything. The Zephrian collective was not just one aggressive species. It was a confederation of 47 different worlds, all of them peaceful garden planets that had never known real conflict. Sir, she reported to Admiral Parker, the collective isn't a military empire. It's a protection racket. They conquered these worlds by threatening them with destruction, not by actually fighting. This revelation changed the entire nature of the conflict. The humans were not fighting a military empire. They were fighting a collection of species that had never learned how to wage real war. The battle for the orbital stations was over in less than 6 hours. The human Marines had captured every major facility, taking prisoners and seizing control of the planet's defense networks. The Zephrian home fleet had been destroyed or scattered, and their orbital infrastructure was under human control. Admiral Parker opened communications with the planetary government. This is Admiral Parker. Our orbital defenses have been neutralized. We're prepared to accept your surrender. The response came from the highest levels of Zephrian government. I don't understand. How can you defeat us so easily? Our technology is superior to yours. Technology isn't everything, Dan replied. You never learned how to fight a real war. The truth was becoming clear to both sides. The Zephrians had built their empire on fear and intimidation, conquering species that surrendered rather than face destruction they had never encountered. A species that was willing to fight back regardless of the odds. Captain Adams was leading teams through the captured orbital stations, documenting the alien technology and interrogating prisoners. What he found confirmed the intelligence reports. The Zephrians were not soldiers. They were police. They're trained to control frightened civilians, he reported. They have no idea how to fight trained military personnel. The Zephrian equipment was designed for intimidation rather than effectiveness. Their weapons were powerful but unwieldy. Their armor was impressive but impractical. Their tactics were based on overwhelming technological superiority rather than actual military skill. Commander Davis discovered something even more significant in the captured databases. The locations and details of every world in the collective. 47 species that had been conquered by intimidation and who were probably waiting for someone to free them. Sir, she reported to Admiral Parker, we have the coordinates for every world in their empire. Most of them are probably eager for liberation. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just defeated the Zephrian collective. They had gained access to an entire galactic community that had never known real freedom. Dr. Roberts was studying the cultural data from the conquered worlds, and what she found was heartbreaking. Species that had once been explorers and innovators. Reduced to servitude by threats they were too peaceful to resist. These species aren't weak, she reported. They're just civilized. They never had to learn how to fight because their worlds never tried to kill them. The surrender of Kethur came at sunset local time. The Zephrian government formally submitted to human authority. offering to release all their conquered territories and pay reparations for their crimes. But Admiral Parker had bigger plans. "We're not here to conquer you," he told the Zephrian. "Leaders, we're here to liberate the galaxy from your tyranny." The human fleet began preparing for the next phase of the campaign. With the Zephrian homeworld under their control, they now had access to the entire collective fleet and all their military resources. "Sir," reported Captain Adams, "the alien prisoners are requesting to join our forces. They want to help liberate their former victims." It was an unexpected development. The Zephrians themselves were not evil, just misguided. They had built their empire because they believed it was necessary for galactic peace. Now they were seeing what real peace looked like. The human fleet departed Kethur a week later, but they were no longer alone. President Laura Thompson stood before the largest gathering in human history. The Great Assembly Hall in Geneva had been expanded to accommodate representatives from 47 different star systems. Aliens who had been enslaved for generations sat beside humans who had freed them. Former Zephrian officials worked alongside their former victims to build something entirely new. 6 months ago, Laura began, humanity made first contact with an alien species. Today, we stand united with 47 liberated worlds to form the Galactic Cooperation Council. Laura had been a senator when the aliens first arrived. She was the first president of an interstellar government that represented over 100 billion beings across the galaxy. The responsibility was enormous, but so was the opportunity. Admiral Kevin Brown watched the ceremony from his flagship. In orbit above Earth, his fleet now included ships from dozens of different species, all unified under human command. Not because humans had conquered them, but because they had asked for protection. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving distress calls from the Vorthan system. Pirates are attacking their shipping lanes." Kevin sighed. This was the third pirate attack this week. The collapse of the Zephrian collective had created a power vacuum across the galaxy, and criminal organizations were taking advantage of the chaos. "Set course for Vorthan," he ordered. "Signal the fleet to prepare for combat operations." Human fleet moved through hyperspace with an efficiency that amazed their alien allies. What took other species days to coordinate, humans accomplished in hours. Their military discipline and tactical flexibility made them natural peacekeepers. Dr. Nathan Clark was working on the surface of Zephrian Prime, a world that had been strip-mined by the Zephrians for rare metals. The planet's surface was a wasteland of toxic chemicals and poisoned soil. To most species, it would have been considered uninhabitable forever. "The contamination is severe," Nathan reported to his team, "but it's nothing we haven't dealt with on Earth." Nathan was a terraforming specialist who had learned his trade, cleaning up environmental disasters on humanity's homeworld. Earth's toxic waste sites and polluted landscapes. It's been excellent training for rehabilitating alien worlds. His team was using techniques developed for cleaning up Earth's worst environmental disasters. They were introducing modified bacteria that could break down the toxic compounds, planting specially designed vegetation that could thrive in contaminated soil, and building atmospheric processors that could clean the air. "Assistant, how long will the restoration take?" "On Earth, this would take about 50 years, Nathan replied. "But your world isn't as hostile as ours. We should have you back to Garden World status in 20 years. Ambassador Maria Lopez was meeting with representatives from the former collective worlds in the diplomatic sector of the orbital station. Her job was to help these species transition from a system of fear and domination to one of cooperation and mutual support. The concept of voluntary alliance is new to many of us," explained Ambassador Vexai, a reformed Zephrian who now served as a diplomatic liaison. "For generations, we believed that peace could only come through strength and control." Maria nodded understandingly. She had spent years studying the psychology of authoritarian societies, and she knew that the transition to freedom was often harder than the fight for liberation. "Freedom isn't just the absence of oppression," she explained. "It's learning to take responsibility for your own choices and working together without being forced to do so." The Galactic Cooperation Council was humanity's answer to the failed collective system. Instead of rule through fear, it operated through voluntary cooperation. instead of demanding tribute, provided protection and assistance to member worlds. Admiral Brown's fleet arrived at Vorthin just as the pirates were attacking a civilian transport convoy. Pirates were using modified collective warships, powerful vessels that could destroy most civilian defenses easily. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the pirates are demanding the convoy surrender their cargo." Kevin studied the tactical display. The pirates had superior numbers and firepower, but they were fighting like the old collective forces. They expected their victims to surrender when faced with overwhelming odds. "Signal the pirates," Kevin ordered. "Tell them they have one chance to withdraw peacefully." The pirate response was predictable. They laughed at the human ultimatum and continued their attack on the convoy. They had obviously never fought humans before. The battle was over in minutes. Human tactics developed through centuries of warfare on a hostile world proved devastatingly effective against pirates who relied on intimidation rather than skill. The human ships moved through the pirate formation like sharks through a school of fish. "Sir," reported the weapons officer, "all pirate vessels have been destroyed or captured. The convoy is safe." But Kevin was already thinking about the larger problem. Pirate attacks were becoming more frequent across the galaxy, and the human fleet couldn't be everywhere at once. They needed a different solution. Dr. Clark was making remarkable progress on Zephrian Prime. The restoration techniques that had been developed for Earth's environmental disasters were proving incredibly effective on alien worlds. Within months, areas that had been poisoned wastelands were showing signs of new life. "The soil analysis shows a 90% reduction in toxicity," reported his team leader. "The atmospheric processors are working better than expected." Nathan smiled as he watched Zephrian children playing in areas that had been toxic waste dumps just months before. Humanity's experience with environmental restoration was proving to be one of their most valuable gifts to the galaxy. Sir asked. "A Zephrian scientist, how did humans learn to do this so effectively?" "We had to," Nathan replied simply. "Our world spent centuries trying to kill us with pollution and environmental disasters. We learned to fix these problems because the alternative was extinction." Ambassador Lopez was hosting a meeting of the Council's Security Committee. Representatives from 12 different worlds were discussing the growing pirate problem and how to address it without resorting to the collective's authoritarian methods. "We could establish patrol routes," suggested the Andromedon representative. "Coordinate our defense fleets to provide better coverage." "That would require massive resources," replied the Vorthin delegate. "Most of our worlds don't have the military capability to patrol deep space effectively." Maria listened to the debate with growing understanding. These species had never learned to cooperate voluntarily. Under the collective, they had been told what to do. Now they had to learn how to work together by choice. "What if we created a voluntary defense network?" she suggested. "Each world contributes according to their ability, and everyone benefits from the protection." The idea was revolutionary in galactic terms. A defense network based on mutual cooperation, rather than forced compliance, had never been attempted before. Admiral Brown was implementing Maria's defense network concept across the galaxy. Human ships served as the backbone of the system, but each member world contributed what they could. Some provided ships, others offered bases or intelligence, and a few contributed specialized technology. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, "pirate activity has decreased by 70% in the past month. The network is working." The success was due to more than just military effectiveness. Pirates were discovering that attacking a convoy might bring human warships, and nobody wanted to fight the species that had destroyed the collective in a matter of months. President Thompson was reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The transformation was remarkable. Worlds that had been oppressed for generations were flourishing under the new system. Trade was increasing, scientific cooperation was expanding, and for the first time in galactic history, genuine peace was emerging. "Madam President," reported her aide, "we're receiving requests from 17 more star systems to join the Council." Laura smiled. The galaxy was learning that cooperation was more effective than domination. It was a lesson that humans had learned the hard way through centuries of warfare and environmental disasters. Dr. Clark completed his work on Zephrian Prime ahead of schedule. The world that had been a toxic wasteland was now showing signs of returning to its original garden world status. The restoration was so successful that other species were requesting human assistance with their own environmental problems. "Sir," his assistant reported, "we're receiving requests for terraforming assistance from over 30 worlds." Nathan looked out at the green hills and clean rivers of restored Zephrian. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't their military strength or their advanced technology. It was their hard-won knowledge of how to survive and rebuild in the face of overwhelming adversity. The Galactic Cooperation Council had grown to include over 100 star systems within its first year. The voluntary nature of the alliance made it stronger than the forced compliance of the old collective. Member worlds contributed because they wanted to, not because they were afraid. Admiral Brown's fleet had evolved from a military force into something closer to a rescue service, responded to natural disasters, stopped pirate attacks, and helped resolve conflicts between member worlds.